Madison County schools have implemented a new tool that could be the future of school safety.
How Georgia lawmakers are aiming to support the families of the police officers, firefighters, and others who have lost their lives in the line of duty.
Madison County is edging towards legislation that would see major tax cuts for senior citizens. We'll have the details next.
Bringing fun and community to what is typically a solitary activity, the Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl works to put the cool in school.
I'm here at Heritage Park, where a group of volunteers takes the initiative to remove invasive plant species from the area before it causes serious damage.
All this and more
tonight on Grady Newsource.
This is Northeast Georgia's only local source for TV news. From the Grady College at the University of Georgia, this is Grady Newsource.
Welcome into Grady Newsource. I'm Erin Pegenkoff.
And I'm Blake Cavanis.
Gang activity is down. That's according to the new Athens-Clarke County Police data.
Tonight, Grady Newsource reporter DeAndre Harris tells you why.
Gang activity remains a pressing issue in communities across the country, but here in Athens-Clarke County, the numbers tell a different story. New data from ACCPD gang unit shows an 80% decline in gang-related incidents, a significant drop that's raising questions about what's driving this change. I sat down with ACCPD Chief Jerry Salters to break down these numbers and what they mean for the future of the public and safety in the area.
Enforcement officials credit targeted policing efforts, increase in community engagement, and proactive intervention programs for this trend.
Added additional units to our gang unit. We come up with, before we just had investigators from robbery homicide that would work. So we focus specifically on having investigators focus on nothing but gang investigations, as well as adding a uniform component to that, which basically means we had uniformed officers out in the community going after gang members.
But it's not just about law enforcement. Organizations like the Boys and Girls Club have played a critical role in keeping young people off the streets and away from gangs.
So we have no recollection of any of them directly being engaged or involved in gangs, but what we tend to do is to ensure that they have enough activities, both internally inside of the club as well as those different opportunities for them to serve the community, to be able to stay away from things such as gangs.
Beyond enforcement, Chief Salters say trust between law enforcement and the community outreach has been key in reducing gang influence.
In the partnering with Boys and Girls Club, with other organizations that are trying to reduce gun and gang violence, whether it's youth force and just different initiative, what's going to take that place so they're just, not on the streets.
While numbers are promising, local leaders emphasize that there is still work to be done. Their goal is not just to decrease gang activity, but to create long-lasting opportunities for you and the community. For now, it's a step in the right direction. DeAndre Harris, Grady Newsource.
While gang activity has declined, you can check in your area is affected by visiting acc.gov.com and accessing reports from the ACCPD gang unit.
Some people who live in a local apartment complex may have to move out, all because of damage caused by a car crash.
Grady Newsource broke this story last week when a University of Georgia football player was cited in connection with the wreck at the Athens Ridge Apartments. Reporter Alana Jacob joins us live with this latest update.
Yeah, guys, the problem is that the crash knocked out power in some of the units in Athens Ridge. According to the report from Georgia State Patrol, redshirt freshman Marcus Easley was cited when he drove a white 2021 Dodge Challenger into a unit on Redwood Lane on Monday night, March 17th. The report adds that the driver said that he lost control of the car and he was traveling between 25 to 30 miles per hour prior to the crash. The same report includes a narrative stating that the investigating trooper found this to be an inaccurate account of what happened due to the amount of damage from the crash. Athens Ridge is now sending out emails to some of the residents to relocate them. Easley is one of the 2 students who have been indefinitely suspended from the UGA football team, just 3 weeks before the UGA spring football game. The first 2 arrests of UGA football players this year, bringing the total to 7 in the past year. Assistant Athletic Director Trey Littlefield confirmed Easley's suspension from all team activities and said there will be no further comment. I'll keep you updated on this, and back to you guys.
Thank you, Alana. Since January, Madison County schools have used a tool that could change how danger is addressed. Eddie Newbert has the story.
Implemented these not long ago, but I'm telling you, that's the deal for school safety.
Henley is referring to Centegix, a safety button that began being used in Madison County earlier this year.
That'll flash red. The computers, the smart boards, all of those things will pop up and have a message locked down. It automatically goes to our dispatch. Dispatch automatically sends law, EMS.
Just as this sign promotes, Madison County High School believes all students should learn in a safe environment. This is the role of sheriff-trained school resource officers.
Most of the time they're in that school probably 4 or 5 years at a clip before we may rotate them to another.
These SROs enjoy their job, and a lot of the time they even form bonds with their fellow staff and students.
They enjoy it, it becomes a family to them.
Grady Newsource, I'm Eddie Newbert.
Moving on, when an officer makes the ultimate sacrifice, their loved ones are left to carry on without the support of their fallen spouse or parent.
Now, Grady Newsource reporter Shelby Watson tells us about a new bill moving through the Georgia Senate that could offer support to the families of the fallen public servants.
He was a great guy. He was always the funny, goofy guy, the comedic relief.
Madison Farmer's dad was a firefighter.
He worked at pretty much every station in the county, and at the time that he died, he had trained 70% of the active firefighters.
Lieutenant Eddie Farmer served the Athens-Clarke County Fire Department for around 20 years. In 2013, Madison and her family received devastating news.
He had colorectal cancer. It's a vocational cancer, so it has to do with like all the synthetic materials when they burn. It's like creates carcinogens and stuff, and affects firefighters a lot.
According to a study from the National Library of Medicine, evidence suggests a causal relationship between occupational exposure as a firefighter and certain cancers, including colon cancer. After Lieutenant Farmer passed away in 2021, he was recognized by the International Association of Firefighters as a fireman who lost his life in the line of duty. But under a Georgia House bill currently going through the Senate that would expand educational grant assistance for family members of a public employee killed in the line of duty, Farmer's passing wouldn't qualify.
We apologize for the technical difficulties. Moving on, lawmakers are asking how counties can work together to better monitor students who transfer between schools.
The Georgia Senate is discussing a potential bill that would create a statewide database to keep track of students with suspicious behavior. Reporter Tristan Bird has more.
Lawmakers are trying to pass legislation that will expand students' behavioral records.
So the S3 database is going to be like a clearinghouse for those threats. So not every student's going to have a record in that database. It's just if there's an actual credible threat that the system and law enforcement need to track to keep an eye on.
The student charged with the September 4th shooting at Appalachia. Lawmakers are trying to pass legislation that will expand students' behavioral records.
So the S3 database is going to be like a clearinghouse for those threats. So not every student's going to have a record in that database. It's just if there's an actual credible threat that the system and law enforcement need to track to keep an eye on.
The student charged with the September 4th shooting at Appalachia High School had recently transferred from the Jackson County School District to Barrow County.
Like in the case of Appalachia, if that student transfers in the middle of that management plan, that there would be a way for that system, they see their student record and there's a lot of concerns in there, they could check with the S3 database to get a bigger picture or better understanding of what's going on with that student.
The bill also requires every school to include an anonymous reporting system to be set up by July 1st, 2025.
Thought process is, you get an anonymous threat in, and then it's reviewed, and whether it's deemed credible or not, then it moves forward through the either local law enforcement or BTAM team process. But
Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith says he is glad to hear there are more actions being taken to ensure safety in schools. But he also is worried too many things in place will make students feel like they are in a prison.
I don't ever think that safety should ever be skimped on. So my answer is yes, I like the idea of the legislatures and the legislation trying to harden a school, if you will. But the delicate balance with public safety officials and the school system is to make it conducive to learning and that the kids are not, seeing armed law enforcement every 10 feet when they're in school, because they're kids. They gotta enjoy school. That's the best years of your life, if you will. So that's the delicate balance.
Hearings took almost 3 hours with no special action taken by the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee. The bill was sent back to the Senate Judiciary Committee to be voted on as it takes its next steps. Tristan Bird, Grady Newsource.
After the break, hear about how a potential education tax cut for seniors would affect taxes for other residents, if passed.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far. A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start. The Dutch.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
You're home before sunrise. On top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
If your grocery bill has felt unpredictable lately, you're not alone. Prices for every essential fluctuating, leaving many consumers wondering what's behind the changes.
Some items like eggs and dairy are still costing shoppers like Doris Bolden more, leaving it hard to provide for her grandchildren.
Even when I get paid to try and get a couple of groceries, I'm spending maybe $80, $90 and I'm coming out with 2 or 3 bags.
Just 34% of Georgia children are proficient in reading by 4th grade. We take a look at one program that's looking to reach the near 2/3 of students falling behind in literacy.
Grady Newsource reporter Megan Bassino has more from Northeast Georgia.
Helen Ruffin was definitely like the highlight of my high school time, like hands down.
The parents were excited about, oh my God, I'm so excited that my child is excited about reading, and seeing how cool it is to read.
For the past 2 months, the Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl has been taking place across the state of Georgia. 280 attendees across 6 elementary schools, 5 middle schools, and 5 high schools. These students were joined by parents, faculty, and support members who cheered on their scholars as they represented schools from all over Georgia. After local and regional rounds of competition, the state finals took place right here at UGA's campus this Saturday, March 22nd, at the Mary Frances Early College of Education's Adderhold building. Representing Northeast Georgia, Barrow County's very own Barrow Arts and Sciences Academy took home 3rd place in this year's high school level of the Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl. The team of young readers were cheered on by their teachers and peers as they took on this unique challenge. For onlookers not graduating, perhaps a seed was planted as they watched the glimmer of this trophy pass by. For Grady Newsource, I'm Megan Pastino.
Thanks, Megan. One local county is preparing to slash school taxes for senior citizens.
But while those over 70 will benefit, Grady Newsource reporter Jack Keys tells you who will pick up the slack instead.
But we got to bring our tax burden down for our seniors.
That's been Todd Higdon's goal for years, and now the wheels are in motion to give senior citizens property tax breaks just weeks after opting out of House Bill 581.
And our intention is to try to hit as many 70 and older as we possibly can to eliminate them school tax.
But those involved know anytime there's a tax break, others have to pay the burden.
And because you're shifting this burden to, a different tax bracket, what it's going to create is it's going to create a situation where we have to raise the millage rate.
Higdon argues,
if you're the guy that's got the kids in the school, then therefore you need to be the guy that's paying the little bit more.
Eliminating the elderly from school taxes was first proposed earlier this month. And while no parties involved could guarantee all 70-year-olds would be eligible for this exemption,
from the BOE standpoint, there's a little bit of some issues with the full exemption.
The county is prepared to shell out $1.7 to $1.8 million worth of exemptions, with up to 1,800 senior citizens being affected.
To be honest, it's probably 75 or 80%, maybe even 90% of our seniors that can't do this. Most of them are on, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. They have a very low income.
Higdon says he's been advocating for these exemptions ever since he ran for office, but the key now is that he has the support of the superintendent as well as unanimous support from the rest of the Board of Commissioners. The earliest this law could get passed is in January of 2026 by the Georgia General Assembly. Reporting in Danielsville, I'm Jack Keys, Grady Newsource.
Thank you, Jack. After the break, Blake will catch you up on a couple series sweeps from Georgia sports over the weekend. Don't go anywhere.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far.
A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
The judge. Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
Welcome back to Grady Newsource. Plenty of UGA sports teams were playing this weekend. Blake has the highlights of the weekend.
It's spring cleaning time and two teams have been breaking out the brooms this week. Georgia baseball swept the Florida Gators in Gainesville for the first time since 2006. The series started with a close 8-7 game, but the rest of the weekend was dominance from the Bulldogs. They outscored the Gators 40-13 over the 3 days, with graduate senior Ryland Zaborowski being the man for the Bulldogs. He hit a 2-run home run in the 9th to steal Friday's game, and he also brought in 8 of Georgia's runs. He leads the nation with 14 home runs with his teammate Robbie Burnett just behind him with 13. And they're tied for first in the conference standings and have just moved up to the third best team in the nation by D1 baseball. Meanwhile, Georgia women's tennis is also blowing away the competition, having swept 12th ranked Oklahoma 4-0 and beating Arkansas 5-2. This is their 24th consecutive regular season win, going all the way back to the 2021-2022 season. They sit atop their conference standings and are headed to number 25 Alabama and Mississippi State this weekend. Now that's all for sports, and when we return, Aaron Pinkoff has the 5-day weather forecast coming up after the break.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woo-hoo. Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
My Shiro doesn't always wear a cape, but she always has time for a hug, a smile, for going the extra mile. My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. When you're ready to retire, we want you to be able to enjoy it. It's time to start saving now. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back to Grady Newsource. Let's take a closer look at the 5-day forecast. Aside for some showers this morning, the weather is looking good in Athens for the rest of the week. Today, we saw a high of 61 with partly cloudy skies and will reach a low of 45 tonight. Starting tomorrow, the sun is out. Tuesday, temperatures will rise to a high of 77 and will drop to a low of 49 during the night. Wednesday, we will see a slightly lower high of 74 and a low of 42 degrees by Wednesday night. But Thursday will have an even lower high, but it's only 71 with the sunny skies and a low of 44 during the nighttime. Friday, the heat is up again with a high of 77 and going to a low of 52 degrees Friday night. Come back after the break to make sure you hear how volunteers are keeping invasive plant species out of your parks.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
You're home before sunrise, on top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't
remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Invasive species have been taking over local parks and can pose a real threat if left untreated.
Volunteers in Oconee County are working to keep your park safe for you and the ecosystem. Our reporter, Tanvi Gujral, is here in the studio with the story.
Thank you, Blake. If left untreated, weeds like wisteria, kudzu, and privet could quickly invade your local parks, create a dangerous environment to walk through, and keep surrounding plants from populating. One weed that has been known to take over autumn olive. As beautiful as its name sounds, this species is actually quite harmful. Let's take a look. If left, autumn olive can inhibit sunlight in the area, alter soil chemistry, and outcompete native plants. This ultimately destroys the ecosystem and local parks that are preserved for recreational use. Local facility supervisor of Heritage Park, Tyler Hartzog, was actually able to walk us through the trail and show us how these weeds are removed. He starts out by scouting out the bright green plants with silver lining under the leaves. Since he's been a volunteer for a while, he's quick to find out these plants in the middle of the woods and get them down. He then cuts the weed at the root and sprays a chemical called glyphosate. For the chemical to be fully effective, they have to work quickly, under 30 seconds exact. The weed is then left on the ground and the search for the next weed begins. We apologize for those technical difficulties, folks, but according to Hartzog, the park has seen some real results since 2019 when they started to remove autumn olive. They've even seen the growth of native plants and flowers that weren't there before. Here we can see the map where you see that growth taking place right over here. Thank you so much, and back to Aaron and Blake.
That's all our stories for today.
We will see you Wednesday at 5 p.m. I'm Erin Peckinkoff.
And I'm Blake Cavanis. Thanks for watching.
I was in foster care. I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far.
A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
You're home before sunrise. On top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Oh, well, we are live. Thank you so much for watching Grady Newsource today, or if you're just tuning in now, this is the post-show critique. I'm Dodie Cantrell, the instructor here, and joining us today, we have a special treat. This is Amy Oates. Amy Oates is the assistant news director at Channel 5, Fox 5 in Atlanta, and she comes from the producer ranks, so she very graciously decided she would come and visit us today. She's been here for hours and hours, watching how you put the show together, and she's going to give you your critique today. I had one student say to me today, but gosh, Cantrell, we're just students. And it occurred to me, that's true. But then I thought I'd ask one question. Is anybody not graduating in May? Okay. Okay. When do you graduate? The May of 26. I was going May 26. Well, that's, okay, a different day? You graduate in the fall? Okay, so the rest of you, so you guys can be students. The rest of you, you're only a few weeks away from being graduates. So please listen up. It is a gift to have you here, Amy. Thank you. Take it away. It's all yours.
Overall, I think you guys have a great concept of what you're doing. By far, your journalism school program is above a lot of other colleges in the South, without a doubt. I see that when I bring the interns in, so give yourself credit for that. I think the key, I think today the problem might be, I think it's just organization. Organization, and as a producer, like, you are the captain of the ship, and you have to micromanage and be on top of everybody. It feels annoying at times. You feel like you're babysitting everybody, but that's your job. Your job is to, like, you are the daycare teacher and these are the kids. So, you know, I kind of always say that I run a daycare in the newsroom. When we started to have the confusion about the egg price both sides, I felt like that kind of snowballed in not knowing, like, where's the script? Is it in? Are we using this graphic? Like, I knew going in we were never going to use that graphic because there was no clear understanding if we were going to use it or not. I knew we didn't have it in the script because there was no part in the script that indicated where we should take that graphic. So I almost said to you, read the script, because you would see that he never, like, wrote to that graphic. So I kind of felt like that got us off track, and as a result, he was late getting to the studio, that kind of stuff. So I kind of felt like going into the show, we were kind of like, you know, unsettled. I guess that's the best word. But otherwise, I mean, I think there were just a few technical problems that were out with, you know, not in your guys' reach. But I think overall, if we, you know, just always stay on top. Like, ask the same question like 3 times. Do we have this? Is the script in? What can I do? And don't be afraid to ask for help. I tell my writers, my associate producers that all the time, like, when they've been given too much to write, it doesn't make you look like a less employee, a less producer, whatever, if you ask for help. I would rather jump in myself and help write a script than to, like, not be clean on air.
Can you give them some advice, like, on a regular day as a producer? How many scripts do you write? How many scripts would an associate producer write? How many stories would a general assignment reporter be responsible for?
So we have a noon, a 4, a 5, a 6. Sometimes they're not in the noon, but they'll turn a package for the 4 that airs at 4 and 6, and a package for the 5. So you have to turn 2 versions of that story you're doing for the day. So that's kind of like what our reporters do. Very rarely do I Well, it happens sometimes, but I'm not going to make you turn one story and then, oh, now I'm going to go move you to breaking news. If I move you to breaking news, chances are the story that you were on wasn't that important anyway, and we can hold that, or it's a VOSOT. I have 2 associate producers that come in at 2:30, and they work 2:30 to 11:30. They write for the 4, 5, 6, 10, and 11. They will take the reporter anchor intros. So like if you're out in the field and you have your anchor intro, once you get everything approved by the manager and your script's approved, my associate producers do everything, put their supers in, their leads in, and make sure that everything is good to go. The producers then, I ask them to go back and just double check, make sure everything's good to go. My producers, they may write some VOs, some VOSITEs, not a lot, but I want them to focus on their setups, how are you showcasing the lead story, and their teases. That's their priority to me, that's why I have associate producers. Now, if there becomes a day that I don't have associate producers anymore, and that's realistic, it may happen, then my producers are gonna have to step up. If there's breaking news come in, all of our managers have been former producers, so they'll jump in and they'll write the breaking news script. And the producer is not afraid to say, hey, you know, such and such needs a graphic for their package. Can you do that? Now, I think they kind of, you know, use that too much, and they don't do a lot of graphics on their own. They rely too much on the management. But, you know, our management team does breaking news, graphics, anything that kind of can help speed up the process.
So we talked a lot today about owning the big story, and I know when I was teaching a producing class, you came in and you showed our students, because this was a class of people just wanting to learn about producing, and you showed us a lot of different treatments. Can you talk about the importance of kind of owning that big story and what sort of options that a producer should consider, and as a reporter, if you have an inexperienced producer, what you can bring to the table, because you know more about the story than anybody in terms of suggesting how you can own the big story, so to speak.
So you got to look at it as when you're coming out of the open, you have to pull in those viewers. People don't watch television anymore. They don't watch linear television. They watch it on the stream. They get it, you know, TikTok, you know, that's why so many news stations are doing TikTok news updates and just hoping and praying that someone will decide to watch us on linear television. So when you are doing a newscast, you have to get them right out of the open. That's why when we were leading with DeAndre today, and he had the top story, you have to find a way that it's just not police speak coming out of that open. His story was all about numbers and why Athens thinks that, you know, their crime numbers have gone down. But you have to like make it relatable to the viewers so that they care. And you know, the class that we did, we talked a lot about, we showed a bunch of setups that we at Fox 5 had used, and we played them in the classroom. And it was like 3 or 4 different setups, and we had everybody in the class give their opinion about how they felt about the setups. And I remember like a couple people thought that it was too much, but at least it got people talking. That's what you want, people to talk and remember how did your newscast start. So that's why your EP, your news director, someone will say, how are you showcasing? And as a producer, that's what you've got to think about. How am I showcasing this? And a lot of times I'll say to my producers, why are you leading with such and such? Well, if they can't tell me, the answer can't be, I'm leading with this because it sounded good in the morning meeting. Well, that was 4 or 5 hours ago. Like what you all discuss in the morning might not be like, chances are it's not going to be what they ended up getting. And you have to talk to your reporters so you can say, what elements did you get? Do you have a good soundbite? Is there a soundbite that I can set it up with? Like you always got to be thinking about What is the best thing to come out of the gate? What can I tease? That kind of stuff. So I like make my producers every day tell me, why are you leading with this? And I don't know, or that was the best story in the morning meeting, can't be the answer, because then they're not doing their jobs.
So in tonight's newscast, where do you see some of the greatest opportunities for improvement?
Well, DeAndre, no, this is going to sound weird, but I think you probably need to wear powder because you're shiny. You can attest, men wear makeup in this business. That's just something, you don't want to be shiny. That's always, I'll tell people, guys can wear makeup, powder yourselves up. Some people get shinier than others, but you just always like dab some powder on. I think we just had a lot of technical issues off the top where we went to the double boxes. That ended up over top of DeAndre. You know how it goes. If there's a mistake in the newscast, you got to just somehow be able to take a step back and regroup and then go from there, because otherwise it will like snowball and you won't be able to recover until you get to a commercial break.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to go that long.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And would you mind if I share your contact information with everybody in here? I know some students have applied for internships.
Yes.
Some others may want to. And thank you for spending all this time with us.
Oh, no, it's probably no
Yeah,
problem.
it's a lot. It's a lot. When I was young, I would have given my right arm and who knows what else just to have been able to have a 5-minute conversation with,
So I do want to
producer.
say that we have a news internship. Most of those, I have closed the applications, but if you were to still want to apply, just let me know. But I do have a news trainee program. And what that is you have to have graduated within the past year. So I actually have my guy that's currently in it, he's leaving April 18th. I probably won't hire until like the start of June, just to get the May graduates. So if you were to graduate in May, I like to kind of make it to where if you're interested in producing, because like I need to kind of groom producers because they're really hard to find. So if you've graduated within the last year, that is a 6-month job. It's actual minimum wage, whatever, and it's a 40-hour-a-week job. And the premise is that after 6 months, you should be able to get a job at a television market. Not the guy that's in there now, but the guy that I had in there before was our news trainee for 6 months and got a job as a producer at a Dallas, Texas TV station, which is like a top 10 market. That's unheard of. But, I worked him. He was like an associate producer. He filled in when someone was on a paternity leave. And the last 2 months, I trained him every day as a producer. And he's working at our Fox station in Dallas.
I think we had another one of my students who was in that position and then went to a Texas station as a reporter because she wanted to be on air, and then went to the Fox network.
Yes. I think that was Ashley.
Ashley, yeah.
Yes.
So
I mean, it's a good thing. It's 6 months. You can get in there. Like the guy that's in there now, he didn't go to a great journalism school, so I'm having to teach him a lot more than what you would have had to teach others. But he's realized this is not what I want to do. He's very good on the assignment desk, but he is like, oh my gosh, this is
Not
a
for
lot
me.
of work, and it's
Yeah.
not for me. But
which
he
is a
didn't-
great thing to know
Yeah,
when you're young.
But he didn't have an internship. I mean, we're finally, I think, through the COVID period where people did not have internships, because that's the only way you're going to really know if this is what you want to do. Because it's not all glam and
What?
It's not all glamorous. You can tell them that, it's not glamorous.
Well, so speaking of which, Willie Daniel, please come on up a minute. That was such a producer. What a segue. So, this is Willie Daniel. He was a student here. He graduated in 21. He worked on the documentary that we produced, which was the 60th anniversary of the integration of the University of Georgia. He was in the experiential learning class. He graduated and then went to work in Columbus?
Toledo, Ohio.
Toledo, okay, I knew it was Ohio. All those Ohio towns are the same to me. Anyway, right, that sounded ignorant, sorry. But then he went to work for one of the premier stations in the nation, and that is WRAL. So he's been out just a few years and would love it if you would talk about what they need to pay attention to now and what's going to hit them in the face and, you know, what's important and how they're doing. I know you didn't get to see much of the show, but.
Well, I'll tell you, the journalism program that we have here at Georgia, it really is so different than anywhere else that I've seen, at least people that I've worked with. And even my boss at my first news station just talked about how awesome it is that we do day turns here, because that's really what it's like when you get into the job. You don't have 3 or 4 days to work on a story. You have an afternoon, basically. And so that's really important. One thing that I do think is worth noting, especially a lot of you are about to graduate, when you're putting together your reels, like, it's really important to have a diverse set of stories on there showing what you're capable of doing. Anything from a crime story to political to economic to sports, just showing what you're capable of doing, and also including some like social media stuff in there, especially with people are consuming their news differently these days. So it's important to show people that you're willing to be adaptable and that you're thinking of different platforms that you can tell stories on. And I posted all my stuff. I got my first job right out of college. I moved to Ohio like a week and a half after graduation. And I would just post all of the stories that I did in this class on YouTube. And all the jobs that I got offers from, I didn't apply to them. The news directors, sent me emails based off of my YouTube videos and stuff. So the stories that we tell in this class, they're gonna get you jobs. So take it seriously.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do y'all have any questions for either Amy or for Willie? Please ask. Oh, yes.
So I've been making my run on digital for the past probably like 4 to 5 weeks now, and that's something we've definitely focused on a lot this semester, because as you mentioned, that's totally transforming the news world. How have you guys and your station started to incorporate digital in those like linear broadcasts? Because I know they can be separate, but in this class we focus a lot on trying to intertwine the two to get that cross interaction. So how is that working for y'all?
I'll just say for me, at our news station, when we send in our pitches every day, we have to put how we plan on telling this story on our different social media platforms. Is this something, we have podcasts at our station, is this story something that we can do a podcast on? So when we're getting those ideas before we even come to work, we're supposed to be thinking about how we can put this story on our different platforms.
So we are one of the only Fox stations right now that have completely expanded with our digital, unit. We now have an entire group of people devoted to our stream. We are on Fox Local. If you download the Fox Local app and choose Atlanta, so we have hired 3 hosts that they are our streaming hosts / producers. So they will produce their own content and go live. On the hours that we're not live with news, we take Live Now, which is Fox's live stream, basically. So right now, for 3 weeks, we've been going on Saturday and Sundays, come on because we stream the newscast, so we go on at 5 a.m. When we get off the air, we start our stream. And my morning anchor and morning reporter now go out in the field with their little Osmo. It's this little $600 camera that we use, and we go live with our LiveView app, and they report every 30 minutes from 8:30 or 9 in the morning, depending on how quick they can get there, until noon. This past weekend, we did our first 30-minute show. And then at noon, we have some other shows like Burgers with Bucks, second helping. So every Friday we do a Burgers with Bucks segment, and we're up to like burger 700 and some. So we go back and we put together like a 30-minute show every week of the best of. Paul Milliken does a bunch of his streaming stuff. So we just have found ways to fill that content. Last weekend when we had severe weather, we had so many people watching our stream. Last weekend was college basketball conference tournaments, and no network in Atlanta had news on that day when tornadoes were about to come through. So they depended on the stream. So we had like 70,000 downloads of our app that day, and I can't remember the number of how many people were watching our stream. So I guess we know that that's the way it's going, and we've had to adjust our newsroom. Now we've lost, positions for the linear, but we've pushed them to the stream. So it's not easy because you have to change people's way of thinking. People at Fox 5 have been there for a long time, and you have to change their way of thinking. So.
Is that like kind of a hard thing for you to shift into? Like, how long have you been working in the industry? And is that...
Well, I've been at Fox 5 for like 26 years, I think. 26 years I've been there. This is my fourth station. So yeah, but it's like, I kind of feel like the industry has evolved the whole time like I've been in it. And if you want to stay in the business and be in it, you just kind of have to evolve with the changing times. So.
You don't want to work that hard and not have people see what you're producing, right? So we got to go where they are.
I mean, this morning, and I kind of fall into this category where I kind of produce a bunch of different content that's really not news. And we have these two guys, they're just two college dudes. I don't even know. They have a podcast, and we put them on our stream, and during the non-Falcons season, we have a hole on our programming, so we now put these guys on television. And it's my job to make that show look good and, try to make them better TV people and not podcast people. So I put together a show this morning, and then one of my associate producers, she times it out for me. And then that goes on the stream on the weekend and on the air. So you just kind of are constantly looking for shows to put on the stream. But people really want what is happening now. So, yeah. Did I answer your question?
Any other questions? Really? You got one? No? Okay, DeAndre?
I guess based looking at the show, was there like anything that that we did well, overly well, or like something, I guess for me there, or all of us, that we did overly well, or something that we could have improved on our package wise, or like a package that stood out?
I think for you guys to be able to turn these packages in one-day terms, I think you guys are doing a great job at that. When I looked at your script, I mean, we just tweaked the anchor intro. I didn't, and then looking at some of these other ideas, I mean, I think your packages are really good. The only thing that I noticed was a lot of the audio levels. It felt like your audios, like in general, the audio of your packages are low. Don't be afraid to like project, and you may feel like you're yelling, but like, have some authority with your voice, even when you're anchoring. When we do the interns, like kind of anchor rehearsal, I always tell the interns, like, talk not loud, but like project. Like, don't be afraid to like let people hear you.
Amy, would you mind talking about, in the other class today, you talked about licensing for photos, you talked about we talked about the importance of getting information that is in writing from police officers. Could you talk about the import of that and some of the things that you all go through now in this digital world where everything is everywhere?
Yeah, so one of the things that our station, we are very strict on using video. So obviously, I know Dodie said you can't take pictures and stuff from Facebook, that she doesn't let it. Our station attorney does not let us use any user-generated video unless we have like a written thing from them. So all of our reporters have to ask, you know, did you take, I have it on my phone just in case I ever need video from somebody, like, did you take this picture or video? Fox 5 Atlanta and other Fox affiliated entities would like to use your pic and video on all of our platforms forever. Is that okay? Do we need anyone else's permission? And would you like your name used? So we ask that for any user-generated video or pictures. In the other class, I was explaining about 3 years ago, we did a story and we got the pictures from the family of some victim. We did this. My reporter had it still in her email, and it was just a random picture someone had taken from on an iPhone. And 2-3 years later, we get like a letter from an attorney charging us for this photo because it has now been licensed. And we were never notified until we get this thing from the attorney. Now, we had all of our documents saying that the family had granted us permission, but somehow that photo has now become licensed. We don't understand how that happened, but we ended up having to pay a check, even though we had the documentation saying, and there are people out there, you know this, like their job is to just sit on the internet and do AI on user-generated or pictures or anything, just to make sure nobody's out there using them, and if they are very quick to send you a bill. Like, so you can't just steal pictures from somewhere.
Or video,
Yeah.
or music. And it's in part the reason why before you do any interviews or anything, I have you guys state, and this is particular for us at Grady, but it's not a bad idea anywhere, is that you do understand that this is going to be used, I'm going to say forever instead of in perpetuity. That just makes people understand that. You know, that, you know, you give us permission to put this out and it will live forever on the web.
And see, we ask for other Fox affiliates because chances are another Fox station will pick it up, they'll put it out, and then it covers all the Fox like affiliates with that. So.
Yeah. So I'm dealing something right now with the We Will Rise documentary about this channel wanting to do something nationally with it and what parts they want, what parts they don't want, what parts we have clearance for, what parts we're concerned about. So just, you know, be cautious. Shoot your own stuff is really the thing. Get out and shoot your own stuff.
And this is something that you would never think of, and I was blown away. So every year Fox 5 does the MLK service from the King Center or Ebenezer Baptist Church. And when we would do things from the King Center, like we could not show the pictures of any of the King photos on the wall because those are licensed. And if we, even in our broadcast, use those, then we were violating our agreement, and then we would have to pay for that. Even though we were the station to broadcast, we could not show any of those licensed photos.
Ostensibly, if you do it, you know what, we won't get into a fair use argument, but it just shows how strict it is.
Yes. So it's just random things like that that you just have to kind of always be cognizant of what you're shooting, and is there anything that can come back on this.
And guys, that can have a really chilling effect on what you do. Don't let it. But what I would encourage you, a lot of you come into the newsroom and I feel like I have to kick you out of the newsroom because I think maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know. It's like not wanting to talk to people. But also, you guys are used to accessing everything right here. You haven't really, I mean, it's a pretty good little world, right? But you're going to run into these troubles so much more often if you do that rather than going out and getting the story originally. And you'll have greater understanding of it, and you don't run the risk of being, you know, secondhand Sue. You'll instead be the original reporter. A couple of things I did want to say. So every week we do something new, and it's frustrating because I know when we do something new, you're like, well, so what can we drop from last week? Well, the answer is nothing. We're just piling on. Today, the show looked, even though we had some mess ups, the show looked from just a posh point of view much better. Does anybody have any idea why? Did anybody watch a little bit? Yeah. Oh, I've got one more. Yes.
I thought the graphics, like the lower third stuff, like it gave you a better idea of what you were watching, even if you had like the sound turned off. Because I think a lot of the time, like, it doesn't always get straight to the point, and that was what we had to do too with the. This is our first time having like a split up lead, like both anchors are saying something. Like we usually just had like, when I was anchoring, I would say one thing, it would go to the other one, and then back and forth. I think this time it maybe flowed a little bit better, and it felt like everyone that was on camera was involved a little bit.
Yes. And those were the two big steps that we took today. Today we talked about creating teamship with the anchors and doing shared anchor leads. And then we talked about having slugs. Let me put it here. We talked about having story slugs. Now today, Anna and, God, that sounded awful. Anna and Gunter took care of those. Moving forward now, another thing you guys were supposed to take care of is putting your name in the Excel spreadsheet. So on Wednesday, you're going to do that because we want to have a lower third that has your name on it. So when DeAndre, does a sig out, DeAndre Harris, Grady Newsource, we actually see that. But the producers aren't going to have time to put all that in there. You guys need to do that. So we're just adding these things as you guys become more experienced. The other thing is you're going to have to come up with your story slug. It's very dangerous. I had to work with Anna today because it's very dangerous for a producer to come up with story slugs if they're not as intimately involved. What producers are great at, though, is if you go, hey, I'm doing this story on crime or something, what the producer's great at saying is, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Producers are usually pretty creative people. But we want you to input your slug first, okay? So that then the producer gets a second set of eyes and goes, I don't really like that, I'm gonna change it to this. I get a third set of eyes and go, oh, that's terrifying. No, we can't say that. So everybody's gonna have to do that. Today we were really late. Today I was a little bit frustrated this morning because we just are taking too long. And I think, a lot of it, for each one of you, it's a different thing on a different day. But we've come to the point in the semester where we're going to keep adding things to you now. So today, DeAndre had a package and a VOSOT. We were not successful with getting all that done, but we will be next time. But expect that this is going to be every one of you. We're not going to make you do 2 packages, okay? But we are going to expect that you're able to do a package and a VOSOT, except for the 3 that aren't graduating. I guess y'all have another year semester. But you do need to be able to do that, so you have that sense of urgency, and that's really important to do. Producers, and this goes for all of you, you guys have gotten much better at editing your work. I'm not talking about visual editing. I'm talking about being able to kill your darlings. You can't, remember when your story's like 3 minutes long, and I'm going, oh my gosh. You've gotten better at killing your darlings and getting the point across. Producers, it's time for y'all to kill your darlings. This team's doing a great job at getting you pre-show teases. You cannot put them all on air. By the time I'm at pre-show 3, I'm going, can we get to the newscast? You're going to have to pick the best. If you guys want to be at the top of the show, you're going to have to compete. I love that you're doing these. Now let's amp them up a little. How creative can we get with these things? They're really good. The other thing, maybe on Wednesday, you might have a chat. Holly Kate's got some pretty good video. I'm going to want to talk to you about clearances for all that stuff because Mr. Barbie doesn't have the rights, I don't think, or if he does, they may be limited. But let's think about, can we get a great SOT? You know, who's got a great SOT today? I think Mr. Poison Weed Man might have had something. We're going to do a little dressing up of the lighting in the studio. DeAndre, in your package, you had this really cool shot, and I just saw it for 2 seconds, if that. And it was like a number of gunshot something. It was on the police officer's computer.
It was the data report from years ago, 2024. He was showing me from how it went down.
And so why didn't we have a bunch of video of that? That would have been so much more interesting than buildings. Yes. Oh, okay. So think about that, y'all. I don't want to see, you know, I'm not going to put a moratorium on brick buildings, but I'd love to. I'd really love to. If it's a brick building, unless it's like, you know, turning into lava before your eyes, it's usually pretty boring, okay? So I have a couple of other notes on a couple of things. Can you help me understand, why was Judd on Zoom today?
He couldn't meet in person because his son was having a root canal.
Okay.
So
Oh, well. Oh, fabulous. Okay. Pay attention to your audio, guys. That's where we're still having some real problems. Loved how much better the show looked, and really, really proud of all the stand-up teases that you're doing. That's working really, really well. And keep trying to be creative and writing to your video, okay?